have not committed a crime by coming to the port of entry. As I mentioned, DHS does have a responsibility to protect minors, and in that case as well, we will only separate the family if we cannot determine there is a familiar relationship, if the child may be at risk with the parent or legal guardian, or if the parent or legal guardian is referred for prosecution. We have a duty to protect the American people, and it's one that I take very seriously. Here is the bottom line. DHS is no longer ignoring the law. We are enforcing the laws as they exist on the books. As long as illegal entry remains a criminal offense, DHS will not look the other way. DHS will faithfully execute the laws enacted by Congress as we are sworn to do. As I said earlier today, surely it is the beginning of the unraveling of democracy when the body who makes the laws, instead of changing them, tells the enforcement body not to enforce the law. I asked Congress to ask this week so that we can secure our borders and uphold our humanitarian ideas. These two missions should not be pitted against each other. If we close the loopholes, we can accomplish both. Before I take questions, I just want to ask that in your reporting, please consider the men and women of DHS who are dedicated law enforcement officers and who often put their lives at risk. Let's remember their sacrifice and commitment to this country. And with that, I'll take some questions. Yes?
Secretary Nielsen, if you could, what you talked about there, DHS is no longer ignoring the law. You're calling on Congress to change the law, and that is the big message here. Members of Congress on the Democratic side say that you are using children as a lever to try to get them to take legislative action. What do you say to that?
I say that as a very cowardly response. It's clearly within their power to make the laws and change the laws. They should do so. Yes.
Have you seen the photos of children in cages? Have you heard the audio clip of these children wailing that just came out today?
I have not seen something that came out today, but I have been to detention centers. And again, I would reference you to our standards. I would reference you to the care provided, not just by the Department of Homeland Security, but by the Department of Health and Human Services when they get to HHS.
Is that the image of this country that you want out there, children?
The image that I want of this country is an immigration system that secures our borders and upholds our humanitarian ideals. Congress needs to fix it.
Oh, is that
yes.
Secretary, I'd love to give you a chance to respond to Laura Bush in an op-ed. She says this is cruel. She supports an application of the law. Even the current First Lady, Melania Trump, has said we should be a nation of laws. We should do so with heart. Do you have anything you want to tell them? Do you believe they're misunderstanding the situation? Or do you believe there's any component of this policy, which, as you've outlined, other administrations have done, but you're using in a way that it is more intense and creates the separation issue?
My response would be is calling attention to this matter is important. This is a very serious issue that has resulted after years and years of Congress not taking action. So I would thank them both for their comments. I would thank them both for their concerns. I share their concerns, but Congress is the one that needs to fix this.
This policy is not, by your definition, in any way cruel.
It's not a policy. Our policy at DHS is to do what we're sworn to do, which is to enforce the law.
Right, thank you. Just following up on Megan's question there, former First Lady Laura Bush compared this to the Japanese internment during World War II, one of the darkest days in the nation's history. Do you believe that the effect of this policy, so not the law, but the effect of it on separating children from families in those specific instances is moral, is ethical, is American?
What I believe is that we should exercise our democratic rights as Americans and fix the problem. It's a problem. Let's fix it. Yes.
How is this not child abuse?
Which, be more specific, please. Enforcing the law?
The images that Cecilia was talking about and the sounds that we've seen from these big box stores, the Walmarts, the other stores, when you see this, how is this not specifically child abuse for these innocent children who are indeed being separated from their parents?
So I want to be clear on a couple other things. The vast majority of children who are in the care of HHS right now, 10,000 of the 12,000, were sent here alone by their parents. That's when they were separated. So somehow we've conflated everything, but there's two separate issues. 10,000 of those currently in custody were sent by their parents with strangers to undertake a completely dangerous and deadly travel alone. We now care for them. We have high standards. We give them meals. We give them education. We give them medical care. There's videos. There's TVs. I visited the detention centers myself. That would be my answer to that question. Yes.
If I could follow up, for the hundreds that are not included in there, you said 10,000, but for the hundreds that we have seen, perhaps up to 2,000, are there any examples of child abuse, you believe? And how could this not be child abuse for the people who were taken from their parents? Not the ones who were sent here with their parents' blessing with the smugglers, but the people who were taken from their parents.
Unfortunately, I'm not in any position to deal with, hearsay stories. If someone has a specific allegation, as I always do when I testify, I ask that they provide that information to the Department of Homeland Security. We will look into it. Of course, we do not want any situation where a child is not completely adequately taken care of. Yes.
A couple of questions. One, why is the government only releasing images of the boys who are being held? Where are the girls? Where are the young toddlers?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with those particular images, so I have to.
Do you know who the girls are? Do you know who the young toddlers are?
We have children in DHS care both, but as you know, most of the children after 72 hours are transferred to HHS. So I don't know what pictures you're referencing, but I'd have to refer you to HHS.
Boys, but we just haven't seen any of the girls, any of the young toddlers, and you're saying that they are being well cared for. So how can you make that claim if you don't know where they are?
It's not that I don't know where they are. I'm saying that the vast majority of children are held by Health and Human Services. We transfer them after 72 hours. I don't know what pictures you're speaking about, but perhaps they're
released to the public. They've been aired all over national television.
by DHS or by HHS. Okay, so let's find out from HHS. I don't think there's anything other than they're just the pictures.
Your department, they've been aired all over national television throughout the day. The kids were being held in the cages. We've only seen the pictures.
I will look into that. I'm not aware that there's another picture. Yes.
Let me ask, Secretary, let me just follow up very quickly because you continue to insist that this is something that Congress can change. And yet,
Yes.
this is something that was enacted after the Attorney General announced the zero tolerance policy. This never happened before he announced.
That's actually not true. So the last administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, all separated families they absolutely did.
Well,
They did. Their rate was less than ours, but they absolutely did do this. This is not new.
Minors, there's no doubt about that, but
They separated families.
kids at this rate from their parents is something new and specific to this administration, once the Attorney General announced the zero tolerance policy. So why doesn't the President pick up the phone and change the policy? He said he hates it.
I think what the president is trying to do is find a long-term fix. So why don't we have Congress change the laws to change the... No, Congress can fix this tomorrow. Yes, I think you were next, right?
I'm sorry, President Trump has had a lot to say the last few days about immigration, but he's offered no compassion to the families that are being separated at the border. Do you know why that is? And why won't he simply pause your department's enforcement of this administration policy until Congress reaches that long-term fix so that these families can be reunited?
He has been attempting to work with Congress since he's been in office. He's made it very clear that we will enforce the laws of the United States as long as this administration is here. As part of that, he has continually reached out to Congress to fix this. And I think what you've seen him do in the last few days is continue to tell Congress, please work with us. The system is broken. The only people that benefit from the system right now are the smugglers, the traffickers, those who are peddling drugs, and terrorists. So let's fix the system. Yes.
Answer the question, does he feel any compassion for the families that are being separated? He's talked about the parents being possible criminals. He's blamed it on Democrats. He's offered no words of compassion.
I think he has said in tweets that he would like Congress to act to end the underlying laws that require the separation. Yes.
Just a second. Madam Secretary, it seemed like a couple days ago, both the President and your tweets, that the main posture or point was to say that this is not the administration's policy, but it seems like in the last today, that the message is a little bit different, is to say, well, this is our policy, but it's our policy because either we believe it's a deterrent or we don't believe we have the resources to move families entirely. And I'm just wondering, I want to make sure we get the reporting right. Which of those is the most precise way to describe how the administration feels, and given the blowback by a number of Republicans as well as Democrats Are you considering rethinking this based on the feedback, or is this the administration's position going forward, period, paragraph?
The laws prohibit us from detaining families while they go through prosecution for illegally entering the border and while they go through prosecutions for immigration proceedings. If we close the loopholes, we can keep the families together, which is what they did in the last administration until a court ruled that we can no longer do that. After 20 days, we have to release both unaccompanied children and accompanied children, which means that we cannot detain families together. The only option is to not enforce the law at all. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so going back to these two questions from Kristen and Margaret, you said that you want Congress to close some loopholes. With that, you also said that you want to make this work. Now, are these kids being used as pawns for a wall? Many people are asking that, and Democrats are saying this is your discretion, and there is no law that says that this White House can separate parents from children.
By the smugglers and the traffickers. Again, let's just pause to think about this statistic. 314% increase in adults showing up with kids that are not a family unit. Those are traffickers, those are smugglers, that is 13, those are criminals, those are abusers. Thank you. All I'm trying to say, the closing that loophole will enable us to detain families together throughout the proceeding as they've done in previous administrations.
Madam Secretary, can you definitively say, are the children being used as pawns against a four-wall? Yes or no? Can you say yes or no to that?
The children are not being used as a pawn. We are trying to protect the children, which is why I'm asking Congress to act.
Yes. As the legal framework for the decisions that your administration is making. Are what we're seeing, the pictures, the audio, the stories, are they an intended consequence of the administration's decision-making or an unintended consequence?
I think that they reflect the focus of those who post such pictures and narratives. The narratives we don't see are the narratives of the crime, of the opioids, of the smugglers, of people who are killed by gang members, of American children who are recruited, and then when they lose the drugs, they're tased and beaten. We don't have a balanced view of what's happening, but what's happening at the border is being overrun by those who have no right to cross it. As I said before, if you're seeking asylum, go to a port of entry. You do not need to break the law of the United States to seek asylum. That actually is incorrect. We have limited resources, we have multiple missions at CBP, and what we do is, based on the very high standards we have, if we do not have enough bed space, if we do not have enough medical personnel on staff, if we do not have enough caretakers on staff, then we will tell people that come to the border they need to come back. We are not turning them away. We are saying we want to take care of you in the right way. Right now, we do not have the resources at this particular moment in time. Come back.
Thank you very much. Are you intending for this to play out as it is playing out? Are you intending for parents to be separated from their children? Are you intending to send a message?
I find that offensive. No, because why would I ever create a policy that purposely does that?
Perhaps it's a deterrent.
No, it's the way that it works. That's not the question that you asked me, but the answer is it's a law passed by the United States Congress. Rather than fixing the law, Congress is asking those of us who enforce the law to turn our backs on the law and not enforce the law. It's not an answer. The answer is to fix the laws.
Will the administration refrain from its current policy if Congress were to pass something that's close to what you want? Or will it continue to require the separation of parents from their children until the president gets exactly what he wants?
If Congress closes the loopholes, many of which are closed in the two bills that we hope are taken up this week by the House, then they close the loopholes. and the families will stay together throughout the proceedings. Thank you.
Policy is a deterrent. That's Secretary, do you believe the policy is a deterrent? Why?
Thank you, Secretary Nielsen. I'll jump right in and go to other questions, news of the day. Steve.
The President said he was talking to North Korean leader Kim yesterday. Do you know if that happened?
I know the President has spoken with a number of administration officials that are working on the details following the North Korean summit, and we'll keep you posted on those details, but I'm not aware of a specific call between the two leaders at this time.
There's a report that the United States and South Korea have agreed to suspend joint military drills in August. Is that legal?
I'm sorry, the last part of the question?
That they've agreed to suspend joint military drills in August. Are you aware of this?
Those conversations are ongoing, and at this point, as long as the North Koreans continue to act in good faith, as we saw in Singapore, then we expect those things to be on pause at this point.
Yes, Sarah, has the President discussed the family separation policy with the First Lady in light of her statement yesterday? And does he have any plans to come out and address the American people, maybe take some questions about how his administration is enforcing?
The President did take a number of questions, as I'm sure you're all aware, on Friday, in which what he actually said very closely mirrored what the First Lady said. He said he hates seeing this. He's called on Congress, not just Friday, but for months, he's called on Democrats in Congress to work with him. Let's fix this problem. The President isn't trying to kick the can down the road. He's actually trying to work with Congress to get real solutions and to fix the problem, and that's what we're doing. Jeff, and I'll take your question, since you and your network falsely accused me of not wanting to be here, so I'll be glad to pass that question on to you now.
Why did you decide to have Secretary Nielsen answer questions instead of you?
I'm here answering questions as well, but I thought it was important for the Secretary and one of the primary experts on this process and the things that are going on to come out here and have the chance to speak to you, and for you guys to be able to ask questions directly of her and the leaders in this administration. But I'm standing here in front of you. John?
I have a real question. Would the President sign a bill that did not...
I wondered if you were going to throw it away.
Would the President sign a bill that did not include border funding if it did indeed close this loophole that Secretary Nielsen talked about? Would he sign that specific bill, or does he require an entire bill with that $25 billion in
Look, we've laid out what we would like to see on a number of different occasions. There are currently 2 bills that are in process in the House. The President supports both of those pieces of legislation that we have voiced support for the details in those. The President doesn't just want to see a Band-Aid put on this. He wants us to actually fix our immigration system. He's tired of administrations claiming that they want to help the system and then just kicking the can down the road. He wants to actually fix the problems. He wants to secure our border. This isn't just something we can tinker with. We have to actually fix the entire system, and he's committed to doing that. Again, we've laid out what we want to see in legislation. The President wants to fix the system, and we're committed to doing that.